Okay, so in the last video, it was about the DJI Ronin-S and the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, and if those two things work together. And that video is pretty much just about the fact that if you do want to use the Blackmagic Cinema Camera, Pocket Cinema Camera 4K on the Ronin-S, you're gonna have to use an extra attachment that comes with the Ronin-S that kind of allows for some extra space, because the Ronin-S gimbal is meant for smaller size cameras. The Blackmagic is pretty big, but it is possible with that extra attachment. So if you want to see what that's all about, you can definitely go check that video out. But I didn't actually go out and shoot footage with that setup in that video. Currently I am using the Ronin-S, but I'm using it with the GH4 camera, which is much smaller size. They work great together. But in this video, we're gonna find out if the Blackmagic, you know, when you actually go and shoot with it and get some footage, which I didn't do in the last video, if that actually works. And so it turns out there was a bit of an issue, kind of solvable in post. But before we get to all that, let's just check out some footage of the Blackmagic on the Ronin-S. So let's cut to that right now. Cool, so the Ronin-S works with the Blackmagic. Got some cool B-roll shots there, just around downtown Ottawa, Canada here. Yeah, they work together. Now there was a small issue, and I'll kind of show that right now with these two images that I took just off my balcony here. As you can see, the first one from the GH4, the horizon is completely level. And then I simply switched out the cameras, did a quick rebalance on the Ronin-S. And this picture is from the Blackmagic, and you can see that the horizon is a little bit off. So yeah, that's the issue. Now, the way I solved it for the B-roll shots that you just saw was I shot in 4K, and I just zoomed in post, I just zoomed in slightly and rotated the image to readjust the horizon. And you don't even really need to shoot in 4K for that. Like, I only had to zoom in a tiny bit and readjust a tiny bit, but the 4K does help to make sure that you don't lose any resolution. Yeah, so that was a bit of an issue, just the horizon being off with this camera. And I figured it's the Ronin-S's fault. It took me the longest time. I actually discovered why the horizon was off, but I started out like looking at YouTube videos, trying to figure out, like, I assumed it must be the Ronin, just didn't know how to work with this camera, because Ronin does not officially support this camera. Like on their website, they have a list of cameras that the Ronin-S is officially works with, and this is not one of them yet. Yeah, I figured it was just something with the Ronin, just didn't know how to you know, level this camera for whatever reason, maybe the long form factor of it. But eventually I discovered what the actual issue was. Quite sure it has nothing to do with the Ronin. It simply has to do with this attachment that I was talking about in the last video. So when you put this attachment onto the main plate, it actually rests on this plate slightly on an angle, because this plate has these kind of rubber tracks on it. And then in the very middle, there's no rubber tracks, so there's a bit of a level change there. And just the way that this attachment sits on this, it's resting on the track and then on the middle as well. So it's slightly on an angle. So even if I just rested this on a flat surface, like on my table here, and it was just resting, I didn't even have to put it on the Ronin-S, and I turned the camera on, I can see that the horizon's off. So it doesn't even have to be on the Ronin-S. You can just lay these two things on a flat surface, and this is gonna be slightly off. It's such a tiny angle and you wouldn't think it matters, but it does matter. It affects your horizon. And I'm assuming like everybody has to have this issue who tries this out. And you know, I was looking on YouTube and like nobody was bringing up this issue. So I was like, oh, you know, my Ronin-S must just be messed up. But now that I realize it's this, I mean, everybody must have that issue. So if you're planning to use the Blackmagic with the Ronin-S, you're probably gonna come across this issue. Again, you can solve it like I did in post by just, you know, shooting in 4K and zooming, or shooting in 1080 even, and just zooming in slightly and rotating your image in post. But another fix I could possibly see, I haven't really looked into this yet, is to actually, you know, buy some rubber, you know, thin rubber stuff from some hardware store. I don't know where you could get that, or some parts store, and kind of glue them on so that this whole track here is completely flat. It doesn't have these up and down points in it. So that could be a fix there too. I might actually try doing that. If I do plan to shoot with this combination a lot, I'm not, you know, who knows. Again, this is not even my camera. This belongs to Bite Sight Inc., company I work for. We have our own YouTube channel, go check it out. So again, kind of another big new discovery with this setup. Not only do you need this part, but this part causes the horizon to be off. It's another very simple yet very relevant point if you're thinking of running with this setup. But in the end, it was really fun getting those shots. I'm glad I made this discovery, and I'm glad I figured out what the issue was, because I was about to go in and readjust all the settings on this thing, so to try to figure it out. But yeah, that's about it. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and yeah, see you in the next one.